I never planned to live alone in my grandmother's house. The divorce had left me raw, the kind of raw that makes city noise feel like judgment and silence, feel like relief. So when the lawyer called and said the Victorian on Elm Street was mine, paid off, no mortgage, just taxes and upkeep, I drove the 3 hours north without thinking twice. It was October 2023. The leaves were already turning blood red and gold, and the real estate photos had made the place look stately, almost welcoming. In person it looked watchful. The key stuck in the lock the first time. I had to jiggle it the way my grandmother used to, muttering the same half-curse she'd taught me when I was 10. The door sighed open, and the smell hit me. Cedar, old books, and something faintly metallic, like pennies left on a windowsill. I told myself it was just the radiators. Houses this old breathe. I spent the first evening hauling boxes up the narrow staircase, the kind with the worn runner that still smelled of the lemon oil she used every Saturday. My footsteps sounded louder than they should have, as if the house were amplifying them on purpose. By 9 I was exhausted, so I made the bed in the front bedroom, the one she'd always kept for guests, and fell asleep with the lights on. The first whisper came at 2:17 a.m. I woke to it the way you wake to a phone vibrating under a pillow. Sudden, intimate, impossible to ignore. A woman's voice soft, right beside my left ear. Sarah. My eyes snapped open. The room was empty. The digital clock glowed the time in red. I sat up, heart hammering, and listened. Nothing. Just the furnace kicking on downstairs. The old pipes ticking as they expanded. I laughed at myself. Nerves, grief. Too much coffee on the drive. I left the lamp on anyway. Morning light made everything ordinary again. I walked the house room by room with a notebook, trying to feel like a journalist instead of a frightened woman. The parlor still had her china cabinet, the kitchen her cast iron skillet hanging from the hook. The attic door at the end of the upstairs hallway was painted the same faded blue I remembered. I tried the knob. Locked. The key was probably on the ring the lawyer had given me, but I wasn't ready to go poking around dusty boxes yet. I had a deadline for the true crime podcast I hosted. The house could wait. That night the whisper came earlier. 1:43 a.m. Sarah, you left the light on in the bathroom again. My blood turned to ice. I hadn't left any light on. I'd checked every switch before bed like I always do. Divorce habit. The fear of coming home to an empty dark house. I crept down the hall. The bathroom was pitch black. I flicked the switch anyway. The bulb buzzed to life and showed me my own pale face in the mirror, eyes too wide. I slept on the couch downstairs after that, TV on low, some cooking show murmuring about sourdough starters. The voice didn't come back. I told myself I'd imagined the words. Houses settle, old wood talks, grief plays tricks. By the end of the first week, I had a routine. Wake at 6, coffee in the kitchen while the sun came through the stained glass transom over the sink. Work until noon on my laptop at the dining table. Walk the neighborhood in the afternoon to clear my head. The neighbors were the kind of small-town friendly that feels scripted. Mrs. Delgado from next door brought over banana bread and told me my grandmother wasn't the same after your grandfather passed. Mr. Hale across the street waved every time I passed and said, "Stay safe in that big old place, Sarah." He said my name like he'd been practicing it. I started noticing the vents. The house had been retrofitted with forced air heat in the 70s. Ugly metal grills in every room. When the furnace ran, the grills hummed. But sometimes, when the heat was off, I could hear breathing through them. Not air moving, Actual inhale, exhale, faint as a sleeping child. I put my ear to the one in the parlor and held my own breath. The sound stopped instantly, like whatever was on the other side had noticed me listening. I bought a cheap digital recorder. That night I left it on the nightstand, red light blinking. In the morning I played it back while I made coffee. Static, my own soft snoring. Then, at 3:12 a.m., the whisper again, clear as if the woman were standing in the room. "You're using the wrong side of the bed, sweetheart. She always slept on the left." I dropped the mug. Coffee splattered across the linoleum. My grandmother had always slept on the left side of the bed. My grandfather on the right. I knew that because I used to crawl in with them during thunderstorms when I was little. How the hell could a recording know that? I played it again and again. The voice wasn't mine. It wasn't my grandmother's either. She'd had a smoker's rasp until the day she died. This voice was younger, almost tender, like a mother checking on a child. That afternoon I called the only person who might understand, my best friend Lena, back in the city. "You're losing it," she said, but her tone was gentle. "Grief does weird shit. Remember when my mom died and I kept finding her hair in the drain for a year? I'm not imagining a voice that knows my childhood sleeping arrangements, Lena. Play it for me." I held the phone to the speaker and hit play. Silence on her end for a long beat. Okay, that's creepy as hell. But it could be a neighbor's baby monitor bleeding through, old houses, thin walls. "You said the place is 120 years old?" I wanted to believe her. I really did. I started sleeping with the recorder running every night. The whispers changed. They became instructions. "Sarah, the back door's unlocked again. You're going to get yourself killed." I checked. It was unlocked. I had no memory of touching it. "Sarah, you forgot to take your pill this morning. The blue one." I had. The pill organizer on the kitchen counter still had Tuesday's dose sitting there. Each time the voice was calm, almost affectionate, never threatening. That was worse somehow. It felt like being parented by something that shouldn't exist. On the 10th night, I woke to the voice speaking directly into my ear. So close I felt breath on my skin. "Sarah, I missed you." I screamed. The sound echoed off the high ceiling and died. I grabbed the recorder, hit play immediately. Nothing. Just my scream and then silence. Whatever had spoken hadn't been caught. I couldn't stay in the house another night without answers. The next morning I drove to the county courthouse and requested the property history. The clerk, a woman in her 60s with a name tag that read Barb, raised an eyebrow when I gave the address. "Elm Street, you're the granddaughter then?" I nodded. Barb disappeared into the back and returned with a thick folder. "Most of it's boring, but there's one thing. Your grandmother filed a police report in 1998. Said someone was living in the walls. They sent a guy out, found nothing. She was getting on in years, you know. People get confused." She slid a photocopy across the counter, my grandmother's shaky signature at the bottom. Date: October 17th, 1998. The same week I'd moved away for college, the week she'd started calling me at 3 a.m. saying the house was talking back. I drove home in a daze. The sun was setting by the time I pulled into the driveway, turning the stained glass transom into a kaleidoscope of blood and fire. I stood on the porch for a long time before I could make myself go inside. That night, I left every light in the house burning. I sat in the parlor with my laptop, searching people living in walls real cases. The usual Reddit threads, a few news articles about squatters in attics who'd been there for years, eating from the fridge at night, using the shower when the owners were at work. One case in Colorado where the intruder had lived undetected for 4 months and left little notes for the family. "You're out of milk." I laughed, a brittle sound. Then I noticed the vent in the parlor wall was hanging slightly crooked, one screw missing. I fetched a screwdriver from the kitchen drawer. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped it twice. When I finally got the grill off, cold air rushed out, smelling of damp earth and something sweet, like rotting apples. I shone my phone flashlight into the duct. It went back farther than it should have. The ductwork turned a corner I couldn't see past, but at the edge of the light, I saw something glinting. I reached in, fingers brushing dust and cobwebs, and pulled out a small spiral notebook. The cover was faded pink, the kind I used in middle school. Inside, in my own teenage handwriting, were lists. Sarah's favorite cereal, Frosted Flakes. Sarah's bedtime, 10:30. Sarah hates when people leave the cap off the toothpaste. Sarah is afraid of the dark but pretends she isn't. Page after page. Dates going back to 2003, the year I turned 16. The handwriting got neater as the years passed, but it was always mine. The final entry was dated last week. Sarah came home today. She's even prettier than I remembered. She still bites her lip when she's worried. I'm going to take care of her now, the way I always have. I dropped the notebook like it was burning. It landed open on the floor, my own words staring up at me. I ran upstairs, grabbed the biggest suitcase I could find, and started throwing clothes into it. I didn't care about anything else. I just needed out. As I zipped the bag, I heard the furnace click on downstairs. Then the voice, louder than it had ever been, came drifting up through every vent at once, calm and loving and terrible. "Sarah, sweetheart, where are you going? It's cold outside. Come back to bed." I froze at the top of the stairs. The front door was 20 feet away. The voice was coming from everywhere, from the walls, from inside my own skull. I took one step down. The floorboard creaked the way it always did on the 4th step. Then I heard it. The soft scrape of something moving behind the plaster, keeping pace with me. Not ahead of me, not behind. Parallel. Matching my stride. I bolted. I made it to the front door, wrenched it open, and ran barefoot into the October night. The gravel driveway cut my feet, but I didn't stop. I got in the car, locked the doors, and fumbled for my keys. The engine turned over on the first try, thank God. I backed out so fast the tires spit stones against the porch. In the rearview mirror, I saw the house watching me go. Every window was dark except one, the attic window I'd never opened. A faint silhouette stood there, backlit by nothing. It raised one hand in a small, sad wave. I drove until the gas light came on, 3 towns over. I checked into a motel under a fake name and sat on the bed with the lights on and the TV blaring. I didn't sleep. At 3:12 a.m., my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number, local area code. I answered with shaking hands. The voice on the other end was the same gentle whisper I'd heard every night for 2 weeks. "Sarah, you forgot your pill again. The blue one. I left it on the kitchen counter for you. Come home. I'll keep the lights on." I hung up. Then, I threw the phone across the room and watched the screen crack like a spider web. The next morning, I went to the police. They took a report. The officer was kind, wrote everything down, even the part about the notebook in my own handwriting. He promised to send someone out to check the house. I waited in the station lobby for 4 hours. When the patrol car finally radioed back, the dispatcher looked at me with new eyes. "Ma'am, the house is empty. No sign of forced entry, no notebook. All the vents are screwed shut tight. Have been for years, looks like. But there's something you should see." They drove me back. The sun was high and the house looked harmless, almost pretty with the autumn leaves drifting across the lawn. The officer led me inside. In the parlor, the vent grill was back in place, screws gleaming like new. On the coffee table sat the pink notebook, open to the last page. A new entry had been added in fresh ink, in handwriting that was mine, and yet not quite. "Sarah came home today. She's even prettier when she's scared. I'm never letting her leave again." The officer cleared his throat. "We can get you a restraining order, but..." "Against who, exactly?" I didn't answer. I just stared at the notebook. At the bottom of the page, in the tiniest letters, was a postscript I hadn't noticed before. "P.S. I've been here since 1998. Your grandmother knew. She liked having company. I moved out that afternoon. I left everything. The furniture, the china, the cast iron skillet. I paid a company to pack and store it all. The house went on the market 2 weeks later. It sold in 4 days to a young couple from out of state who said they loved the character." I still get calls sometimes, late at night. Unknown number. I never answer. But last week, I was in a hotel in Seattle for a conference. I woke at 3:12 a.m. to the sound of the air vent above the bed sighing open. Just a whisper, soft as a lullaby. "Sarah, you left the light on in the bathroom again." I haven't slept since. The house is still standing on Elm Street. The new owners painted the trim a cheerful yellow. They put up a swing on the front porch. Every time I drive through town, I take the long way around so I don't have to see it. But sometimes, when the wind is right and the night is quiet, I swear I can hear the furnace kick on somewhere far away. And the voice, my voice, but not, says the same 3 words it's been saying for 26 years. "Welcome home, sweetheart."